by merely enjoying all the products of technology and civilization. Human life doesn't go forward at all. It is just going round and round. There is no direction, there is no progress. In fact, the concept of progress in the 19th century, early 20th century, was a very poor concept. Concept of progress means more gadgets, more enjoyments, more comfort, more pleasure. The primitive man had so little, the civilized man has so much, therefore there is progress. This concept of progress has been criticized by various thinkers. One of them I especially refer, namely Disraeli, the British Prime Minister of nearly 70, 80 years ago. One of his beautiful sentences is, "The European talks of progress because by the aid of a few scientific discoveries, he has constructed a society which mistakes comfort for civilization. More comfortable, more civilized. That is not civilization. There is some inner growth in man. That is neglected in this concept of progress. So real progress towards love, compassion, feeling of oneness with all, the spirit of service. Here you find man growing from a genetically limited individual to an expansive personality. This is the concept of human development. Evolution at the human stage, therefore, is psychosocial evolution and not organic evolution according to 20th century biology. Psychosocial evolution. It's a very beautiful new concept that this psyche, which is so tied to my organic system, I detach it from that system, I expand it and feel my oneness with millions of psyches in society. That is real progress. Progress in compassion, progress in love and concern. This is what the world is seeking today. The capacity to love people. They have lost that capacity in the name of civilization, in the name of technology, etc. Several Western thinkers have stressed this point, that the world is in a mess. We can clear this mess only by helping people to generate love in their hearts. Then everything will be all right. I am quoting Bertrand Russell in this connection. He said, a little love must come in the human heart. He calls it a little Christian love. Beautiful concept. Then problems will be solved easily. We have lost that capacity. It is there you find evolution taking a higher course. It is not adding more and more gadgets, more and more technology, more and more this and that. That won't solve the problem. Beyond a certain level, these things are unnecessary. These things are bad. In fact, a man like Sir Julian Huxley has criticized this craze for consumer goods, endless craze. I am quoting his sentences uttered in the course of his lecture at the Chicago Centenary Celebrations of Darwin. That was 1959. All those proceedings come to you in 3 volumes, published by Chicago University. Evolution after Darwin, 100 years of evolution. There, this Julian Huxley protested against this consumerism, which is treated as the real meaning of civilization. I am quoting his words. Quantity of material production is not an end in itself. It is a means to a further end. More than a certain number of calories, cocktails, washing machines and TV sets per person is not only unnecessary but bad. Quantity must be subordinate to quality. What is the quality of your life? Are you peaceful? Can you love people? Can you live at peace with others? Now these are more important than I own this, I own that, etc. So this protest, not coming from a man of religion, but a man of science itself, against mere consumerism, where you get stagnant at the organic level. There is no evolution then. It is stagnation. Evolution means movement. In which direction shall we move? To that question, the great sages of the Upanishads had given to realize the Atman, the infinite self, the one with all. We are all one, infinite self. The Gita had told us in one of the verses, God incarnate as Krishna, saying, I am the thread that runs through all these pearls. What a beautiful idea. The whole world is full of pearls, and thread running through that is the divine. In and through you and me, the divine is manifest. He had said like that there. In today's biology, this concept is taken up as you evolve from this genetically limited ego to an expansive self. You can feel your oneness with others. Physically you are separate, but spiritually you realize your oneness with others. That is the meaning of psychosocial evolution. And so this protest against consumerism on the one side, that is what makes for stagnation at the organic level. Today's civilization is stagnant at the organic level, and all the evils you find in civilization come from that stagnation. Whenever life energy becomes stagnant at a particular level, all evils come out of the stagnation. A flowing water is pure and clean. This concept of life is a movement, but movement with a direction. There is plenty of movement today, but no direction. In which direction shall I go? That has been answered ages ago in the Upanishads, when they discovered that within this limited human being, there is an infinite dimension, ever pure, ever holy, one with all. That must be realized. It must be realized is the word, not believe. I have an infinite dimension. If I believe in it, what does it matter? I will be the same person. But if I begin to realize it, I really become infinite in my sympathy, infinite in my understanding, etc. Therefore we have this concept of psychosocial evolution today, spiritual growth in olden days. We use the word spiritual growth. Have you grown spiritually? Have you become detached from this tiny organic system which makes you genetically limited? And have you learned to dig your affections in millions of others around you? That is human growth. That is human development. No animal can do it. Animal is tied down to its body. Man alone can live in the body and yet be out of it by his mental and spiritual growth. That is where evolution becomes tangible at the human level. There is no other type of evolution relevant to the human level. And so, put every child on the road of that evolution. Let the child grow. Physically, it grows by food and exercise. Mentally, it grows by study of books and going to school and college, etc. And the other growth, the most vital, is spiritual growth. Have you grown spiritually? The one question evolution will ask today of every child is, are you growing spiritually? Physical growth is going on. Intellectual growth, as all the provisions are there. But the supreme opportunity for everyone today is this concept of spiritual growth. Have I grown spiritually? What a beautiful idea. This little ego functions in society like a billiard ball, says Bertrand Russell. A billiard ball. The only relationship a billiard ball has with another billiard ball is collision. They collide against each other. So two egos colliding against each other, that is society. All sorts of collisions are going on. We don't want so many collisions. We want to enter into each other. That's called love. That is what is needed in human society. Animals can collide, or sometimes they may come to each other. But in the case of man, he must deliberately develop the capacity to dig affections in each other. the capacity to love. That's why Bertrand Russell said, also the Harvard University professor, he also said the same thing, the capacity for altruism. What a beautiful concept. If you analyze it, you will find you have grown beyond your own tiny ego limitation. You have expanded. The idea of expansion comes there. That's called love. Where there is love, there is a sense of expansion of individuality. Individuality is centered in the ego. But we transcend the ego. We expand the ego. We feel one with others. This is an actual experience, actual development. True education of man is to make him grow beyond his organic limitations. That is what is lacking in today's civilization, because it is stagnant at the ego level, at the genetic level, the organic level. It doesn't know anything beyond this. It is into this world of thought. Modern biology, in the Chicago Congress, introduced this concept of psychosocial evolution. We must evolve at the psychosocial level. We are living in a society. We must learn to take affections in each other. As a billiard ball, you cannot do it. You always collide against each other. So in the spiritual teaching of Vedanta, in the Gita teaching, the teaching of Practical Vedanta, you will find this stress: grow spiritually, by which you overcome the limitations nature has imposed upon you, this genetic limitation. You express your own true nature. That is also nature. Nature within you is of a spiritual nature, quality. You express it, break through this limitation, and become big, expansive. That is a beautiful concept. We have people who have achieved this kind of expansion beyond that organic limitation. Plenty of people you will find all over the world, every society, some measure of psychosocial evolution. Many have achieved. Some have achieved much more advanced evolution. If you find a few people living at peace with each other, working together in a team, there is psychosocial evolution. If there is no psychosocial evolution, constant conflict you will find, colliding. In a family, if the husband is at that organic level, the wife also at that organic level, there will be no understanding between the two. There is bound to be conflict all the time. Two egos colliding against each other, quite natural. We find plenty of such events also going on in the world today. But why should it be so? Can't we have a peaceful life? Can't we love each other, understand each other, enjoy the real delight of human association? Now these questions are coming up more and more, because we find we are lonely in a crowd. Today's experience of man, though we are in a crowd, we feel lonely. That is a wonderful experience today. That's why psychology, psychoanalysis, psychiatry, all these have to handle the subject of man's alienation. That psychological word is alienation. I feel alienated from society. Who asked you to be alienated? Nobody asked you to be alienated. You just got stagnant at your organic level. Therefore this alienation, why should I have this alienation? This is the beautiful idea. You didn't expand. You contracted to that point, caught up in the genetic system. But why did you do so? You have got a beautiful instrument called the cerebral system. With that you could have studied and taught and tried to expand. You have the capacity. You didn't use it at all. Therefore, Practical Vedanta today helps every human being to grow spiritually, side by side with his or her growth physically and intellectually. These two are going on plenty. In the absence of the third, these two are proving man's undoing. Therefore, we must stress this concept of spiritual growth. Have you grown spiritually? Have you expanded? In Vivekananda's beautiful sentence, you will find, all expansion is life, all contraction is death. When I contract myself to my own little genetic system, it is my spiritual death. It is there you will find people fighting, quarreling at that level. But when you are able to dig affections in other people, what has happened to you? You have expanded. You have grown in the true sense of the term. You are not a given individual. You have exercised your cerebral system to find a direction to your own growth and development, and you have become an asset to the society in which you live. This is the type of people that must come out more and more in society. Here and there you will find people with this quality. They have expanded. They feel their oneness with others. We have one word in Sanskrit which is so familiar, given to Gandhi. Mahatma is the word. Mahatma Gandhi. The word Mahatma merely means that whose Atma or self is not tied up in his own organic system. It has expanded and become big to encompass all the other egos in society. That's called Mahatma. Every child can be a Mahatma, put on the road of development into a Mahatma by getting out of the prison of the ego and expanding in love and human concern. This is the most important development for man today. Very often we deal with the subject of international peace, social peace, all these things. But how does it come? Peace comes only from a peaceful mind. If there is peace within, there will be peace without. We often forget this. Peace doesn't come by sitting in Geneva or somewhere and going on discussing about various terms of a treaty. Take for example the Versailles Treaty after the First World War. That's called a treaty of peace. But that treaty laid the germs of a bigger conflagration within a few years. What kind of peace it is? That's why in 1939, just before the beginning of the Second World War, one British intellectual, Dr. Josiah Oldfield, gave a lecture in London, came in the newspapers, the report. Peace and internationalism, that is the subject. He was particularly referring to the Treaty of Versailles. And this sentence he uttered, more wars are caused by bad-tempered people seeking to discuss peace measures than by good-tempered people seeking to discuss war measures. If your temper is good, you will never be able to create war. Temper is bad, you can never create peace also. So Versailles Treaty was exactly of that nature. So many wolves joining together to talk of peace, and they created a bigger war later on. After the Second World War only they understood that peace must come from within man himself. It's not an external something. Therefore, when the Second World War ended, there has been a good deal of chastening of the human spirit. Much more wisdom had come. And so when the international organizations were formed, along with the United Nations was formed also the UNESCO, the United Nations Scientific, Cultural, Educational Association, that's called UNESCO. The preamble of the UNESCO contains a beautiful sentence which can be taken from any religious book. It is a political document, actually it is religious in content. What does that document say? Since wars begin in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed. There's a beautiful statement of the UNESCO. How to construct defenses of peace in the minds of men and women. We have schools and colleges, students study there. Are we helping to build defenses of peace in the minds of these children that are there? Then, later on when they come to responsible positions, they will be the guarantee of international peace. There is no other way. There is no other way. Therefore, that peace comes from a deeper dimension. When you study the human system, you will find three dimensions. One is the sensory dimension, all peacelessness and tension. Take man at the sensory level, it's all tension. There is the ego presiding over that sensory system, it is full of tension. The second dimension is psyche, the mind of man, that is also tension. There is also the same ego is sitting there, full of tension. At only above the psychic level, the truly spiritual level, everything is peace. When you heard the mantra recited at the beginning, ending with Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. All our Sanskrit mantras end in this recitation of Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. That peace we can discover within ourselves. In fact, in the Kathopanishad, the word Atman, the infinite self in man, is described as all peace, Shantam. He says, that Atman is Shantam Atma. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad also said, what is Atman? Shantoyam Atma. This Atman is all peace. All these conflicts and tensions become resolved in that supreme spiritual reality which is the self. Once you achieve that, no evil can come out of you, no hatred can come. You feel your oneness with all. Capacity for love comes only at that level. At every step towards that level also brings out more and more love and compassion, spirit of oneness with each other. That is human evolution. That is man's possibility. When Julian Huxley spoke in that Chicago meeting, he referred to this wonderful idea. We have many sciences today, but we need a new science. And he called it a science of human possibilities. What a beautiful conception. When you study Vedanta, you find it exactly as this science. Science of human possibilities. What are the possibilities hidden in every human baby? A newborn baby, perfectly helpless, but we know that within that baby, many possibilities are lying hidden. Physical, intellectual, aesthetic, spiritual, all are in that baby. Are we helping that baby to manifest all these possibilities? That is the great question. And so, Huxley said, because biology has placed fulfillment as the goal of evolution at the human stage, biology seeks today to develop a science of human possibilities to help people to achieve that fulfillment. It is that science of human possibilities that you get expounded in the Upanishads and in the Gita. It has nothing to do with a dogmatic, sectarian, religion or creed. Absolutely nothing. Just human development. Any human being. How to bring out those hidden possibilities within that individual. So I like this term, science of human possibilities. How many possibilities are hidden in every human being? Mahatma Gandhi manifested many possibilities. Infinite compassion, perfect non-violence. Even if he is beaten by the police in South Africa, he has not a word against that policeman. In the court also he said, no, nothing. I have nothing to say. Now that is something very high. When Gandhi film was showed in America, I saw people rushing to get a ticket just to see the film, hundreds and hundreds all over. Because here you see one quality, real Mahatma, big self, not a tiny self, expansive self, tremendous compassion. He fought with the British, never hated the British. What a wonderful idea. Generally political battles means hatred. Gandhi said, no, no hatred at all. There is a wrong system, we shall have to abolish that all. No hatred at all. And I remember 1932, 33, when this civil disobedience movement was going on, so many freedom fighters were put in jail, they were beaten by the police, tremendous tension was all over India. a Western newspaper correspondent came to India at that time, and he reported what he saw in India. And that report contains this idea, this sentence. Everywhere so much oppression is going on, people are being jailed, they are being beaten by the police, by the British government in India. But strangely, British men and women go to the shops, go to the bazaars for purchases, isn't it? Nobody is harassed anywhere in this country. That is something very strange. That is the greatest tribute to this wonderful expansion of personality that Gandhiji had, a feeling of oneness with all, and he imparted it to the people during that freedom struggle. Now here you have the concept of human growth, not merely in civilization or gadgets, and that criticism of Disraeli, we must remember that simply because they have got plenty of gadgets, we are civilized, not at all. Civilization is a quality of the human mind, capacity to respect another person's ways of life, his belief, and his way of culture. This is what makes for real civilized existence. That cannot come without this expansion of the concept of self. If my self is contained only within my organic system, then I shall be very narrow-minded, small. That man must be like me, I will say. Why don't you like him as he is? That's called civilized attitude. That attitude is slowly coming over the world today. 100 years ago it was not there. But this growth must be sustained. It must be part of our educative, particular process. Man grows beyond limitations of body and mind. What a beautiful conception. So, this idea of spiritual growth, have you grown? Suppose I go to school. An educated person must have more spiritual growth than an uneducated person. Because so much of knowledge has come, that knowledge must help me to expand my sympathies, expand my understanding. That's why education not only instructs you, but enlightens you. If it doesn't make you enlightened, it is no education. Real light must come to the human mind. Wherever there is selfishness, narrowness, intolerance, violence, there may be high civilization, but there is no real culture. Real civilization is not there, because this capacity to see another person from his point of view is not there. That is where you expand yourself. We judge others from our point of view. We contract him to our own size. That should not be. So human development is of this nature. On this tiny planet called Earth, we are all living together. Unless we develop this capacity, this spiritual capacity to love people, to live in harmony with them, the whole earth will suffer. It's a small, tiny ship in space, this earth. So we are troubling there. Till now we are all isolated. Nothing serious could happen. Now we are all so close to each other. Anything may happen. So, the absolute necessity today to understand this science of human possibilities, that this human being can be selfish, can be violent, can be anything, but he can also be great and big in heart and understanding. Let us never forget these possibilities that are there. We don't expect everybody to be a Mahatma Gandhi, but we can be at least one step ahead of ourselves in that line of development. Education must be of that nature. It must illumine the heart of man, not merely instruct him. The verse which we recite in the beginning contains this idea of true education. Sahana bhavatu. Let us all be protected by the divine. Sahanau bhinattu. Let us be nourished by this education we are getting. Sahaviryam karavavahai. Let us get energy through this education that we get. And finally, the Sahaviryam karavavahai tejasvinau adhitamastu. Let us become illumined as a result of this study. Ma vidyushavahai. Let us not hate each other. Let us learn to love each other. That is called Shanti Patha, the peace chant. Every education meant this peace chant first in the Upanishads, because they understood education as growing spiritually, getting illumined, not merely getting instructed. Today we understand education more as instruction only, and educated people are violent. Much of the crime comes from educated people. Much of the corruption in society comes from educated people. If that is education, then there is no hope for man at all. Therefore this rethinking on the subject, in fact after the Second World War, there has been a lot of rethinking on the subject of education. The UNESCO appointed a commission to reform education in the post-war period. It was presided over by the Education Minister of France at the time, Edgar Faure, who later on became Prime Minister of France. And that commission, after long search all over the world and study and investigation, published a report. I like the name of the report, the title, the very meaningful title. Title is Learning to Be, that is the subject. Not merely learning to do. You become an engineer, you become a doctor, you become this, you become that. It's called you're learning to do. But what are you? Have you grown? Have you expanded? Have you realized your possibilities? So they stress this learning to be in that report. That title is so beautiful. Though they have not done enough justice to the subject of learning to be, but they have introduced the subject, that idea, that itself is wonderful. And when you study the Vedanta, Upanishads and the Gita, you will find this subject for learning to be carried to the highest level of development. How to make man infinitely compassionate, loving, a center of peace, radiating peace all round. A Buddha, for example, who could excite him? He won't excite anybody else also. He was infinite compassion personified. He had become illumined. Buddha means one who is illumined. Bodhi means illumination. And so, that is the goal of human evolution. This tiny human being can become infinite in his understanding, physically limited, spiritually unlimited. That's the nature of man. Even intellectually, how unlimited we are. Just imagine, physically we are very limited. Intellectually, we are able to probe into space, probe into the atom with our intellect. How expansive we are at the intellectual level compared to our physical level. There is a fine passage from Pascal, mathematician and mystic of the 18th century, where he says, in space, the universe engulfs me and reduces me to a pinpoint. First sentence. Spatially, you and I are a small speck of dust in the immensity of this universe. Even the earth is only a speck of dust in the immensity of space. So the first sentence, in space, the universe engulfs me and reduces me to a pinpoint. The second sentence is wonderful. It says, but through thought, we understand that universe, that vast universe, we are able to comprehend through our thinking, through our mind, how big must be our personality or individuality, which can comprehend the world by our thought. Though physically, we are only a speck of dust here. If you go one step more, spiritually, we are infinite in every sense of the term. That is what the Upanishads stress again and again. Don't measure a human being in terms of his physical system. Physical system is very ordinary. Elephant is much bigger than a human being, but a tiny human child can manage an elephant. Some tremendous power is manifested in this human child. Children sitting on the back of horses, buffaloes, or in Kerala I have seen 6 or 7-year-old children managing elephants. What is that in that child which is not in the animal? something profound. Even the little manifestation of that has made him so powerful. If he manifests the infinite dimension, something great will happen to humanity. Therefore, this idea of evolution at the human stage as ethical, moral, spiritual evolution. Not at all in terms of organic satisfaction. After a certain measure of satisfaction, everything else is to the bag, as Akali said. That's what the world is doing today. More and more of consumer goods, more and more of satisfactions, etc. Because they don't know anything higher. They don't know that this life current can be taken to a higher dimension. That is the new voice coming from biology itself, and it is the central theme of Vedanta, of the Upanishads and the Gita. And the world's religions contain this profound idea, except that there is so much of narrowness in presentation. My way alone is the correct way. All of you come this way. There's a trouble with the world's religions. Extremely narrow. There are 100 ways to achieve your own development. That idea is not accepted in many religions. But in India, in every aspect of religion, this is central. Gita itself has said the same thing. To achieve this high development, there is no standard route for it, standard road for it. You can have your own way, your own road of development. You are free, absolutely free to grow in your own way. That is the central message coming from Vedanta. We don't say there's only one standard way to achieve this development. You twist the human personality thereby. As Vivekananda said in Chicago Parliament of Religions lecture, if you have only one shirt with you, at a particular size, you give the shirt to everybody who comes to you. But the shirt doesn't suit that man. That doesn't matter. He must suit the shirt, not shirt suit him. That's the language of narrow religions in the world. Procrustean bed, as we say in Greek mythology. A man called Procrustes had a bed in his building up the hill. Any passerby, he will say, "Come, please lie on my bed." And when he lies, if he finds him short, he will pull his leg, make it longer to make it in tune with the length of the bed. And if he is too long, he will cut his leg and make it equal to the bed. My bed is the standard. All of you must be according to my bed. So in English we call it the Procrustean bed of dogma and creed. Humanity has been so much, what you call, stunted by this Procrustean bed of dogma and creed. But in Indian thinking, it never appeared even once. Everybody is free to follow any path you choose. Paths are many, but the goal is one. There's a constant emphasis. In the Gita, Krishna said, "Through whatever paths men come unto me, I receive them through those very paths." All paths, eventually Arjuna, come unto me only. Now this kind of an attitude, we need today absolute freedom to pursue the path of your own development. The goal is there, infinite development is there, but choose your own way, choose your own path, you are absolutely free. Swami Vivekananda. This idea of growth, which is spiritual, is something unique. Physical growth we can measure. Intellectual growth also to some extent we can measure. All examinations are meant for that. But spiritual growth is very subtle. We can measure it only by its actual action in interhuman relationship. If you find a man very kind-hearted, very loving, full of peace, full of the spirit of compassion, then you know for certain that man has grown spiritually.